On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very delightful treat. She has her doctorate in clinical psychology, specializing in the integration of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy, bringing together the best of both worlds. No big deal. She's a dynamic international speaker, and she's written 4 books, 3 of which are New York Times bestsellers, including her 2 iconic books, The Conscious Parent and The Awakened Family. She's an expert in family dynamics and personal development, teaching courses across the globe. And she's the founder of Conscious Coaching Institute, where she trains coaches to spread their message, affecting even more lives, just to name a few. Oprah has endorsed her groundbreaking work in conscious parenting as revolutionary. And she's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific mother. Please welcome the brilliant, beautiful, wise, and abundant, the soulful Dr. Shefali. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. I don't know about how wonderful a mother I am, but yes, thank you for that wonderful introduction.
My pleasure. Funny part is we probably could have talked for 2 hours before we hit record. And we're like, we should probably save some of this juicy stuff for the show. So much alignment and so much synergy. I'm very happy I did good by you with the intro. But as I always like to say, it's your story. You wrote it. I just said it.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to have so much fun today. For the audience, most of them are probably familiar with about 4 million now. In case some of you listeners are not, my suggestion, do a deep dive. Check out her books, her content, her website, her courses, all the amazing stuff she has going on. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
Are you asking me?
Yes, you.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. What is your superpower?
I think it is being able to listen really closely to what people are really trying to say. I'm a therapist, so that's my job. So even though people are talking, I can listen beneath the words and understand their meta communication, it's called, and figure out what they're really saying or not saying, which is something deeper than just the surface.
To be honest with you, it makes perfect sense because even when you and I were connecting before we hit record, like when I was speaking to you, like you're so tuned in, right? Like you're so engaged. And it's just like it's just more intimate. So I'm not surprised that you said that, but I do want to acknowledge you because you're obviously very good at it.
Thank you. Well, it's my training, and it's something that's vital, I think, if you are trying to evolve, is to try to listen to the underlying content that is often not said. And people can emote and express in many ways, and words are only one way. So we sometimes are only trained to listen to words, but we can listen to body language, we can listen to expression, to the words that are not being said. There's so much that we can pay attention to, but we don't. And especially as parents, to be trained to listen to our children on all levels is so important.
Yeah, I love all this. And also like just the tonality, right? Someone could say they're doing great, but if they say with a little bit of hesitance or maybe unsure, like you could spot that out right away.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the cues that are so readily available, but you have to be present, you have to be patient, you have to create the space and focus and have the attention to attune to people at that level, right?
Yeah, this is so good. This is so much fun. And when I think of a word that basically you're describing, I think of like mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I'm always working on. I used to not be able to not be so mindful, and like meditating was so difficult to me, but now I'm getting better. I could still have a lot of room for improvement. But when I think of like mindfulness, I think of like a portal to expansion because like I'm not thinking about anything that's happening tonight or that happened a half hour ago. It's just me and you right here in this conversation. And when it's like that, you can kind of pay attention to your feelings. And if you're feeling a certain way, maybe it's because you're buying into a story that you were playing, or whatever the case may be. But is that right? The word mindfulness comes to mind when you describe what you were just saying?
Absolutely. So, mindfulness is the key ingredient if you want to live, for me at least, a very intentional life. So, what that means is you have to be full in presence and not in your reactivity to the past or the future. You have to be fully here. Your mind has to be here. And I think that's what we are often not good at doing. And because of our inability to do that, we actually make ourselves more anxious. We make ourselves more stressed, because most problems don't exist in the here and now. They are problems that we anticipate, they're problems that we remember. But most times, if we're breathing and we become really still and simple about life, we have everything in the here and now. It's our projection onto the current reality that makes it less. If we just attune with current reality, like right now, you're breathing, I'm breathing, we're alive, what more do we need? But when we project a lack onto this, like as we could project onto this perfect moment, oh, but we don't have the right hair or the right mood or the walls are not the perfect color. So then we can see lack, right? But if we just take reality as is right now, for the most part, it can be pretty okay. But that attunement to the okayness of the present moment can only come if you're mindful.
I'm just laughing because we're 15 minutes in and I just love you. And the only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat, but I have a feeling it's just the beginning of the friendship. But this is so good. And it's so true. Like if you're stressed out about something, it's probably because you're co-creating or co-signing some sort of scarcity. But if you're just me and you just right now and you're not thinking about anything else, you can't really be anything but joyful.
Yes, yes. But when we live in the past, or we live in lack, or live in the future, these are the core ingredients of lack of mindfulness. Number one, you're living in the past or the future. Number two, you're living in lack instead of abundance. And these are the two surefire ways that we can create stress, anxiety, unnecessary disappointment, and depression, really, in our lives.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. It's already a 7-figure call for anyone that takes this and then applies it. I want to ask you a lot of stuff about the new book and so forth, but before we get into that, I want to hit you with a couple of your hits because I think this is so powerful for the audience. Let's get right into it. I know this is probably not the shortest answer, but how do you heal childhood trauma?
Well, it's not a quick fix. It's a journey. It's a declaration, a devotion, a dedication. And it starts with an awareness. So what is the awareness? The awareness is, oh my goodness, I keep messing up my current life. I keep feeling unhappy. I keep feeling stressed. What the hell is going on? First is an awareness that we are in pain. If we're not aware of the dissatisfaction, we won't want to create the change. So most of us are not even aware that we're not happy. The other day I was with a client and I asked her, do you feel like you're walking on thin ice in your relationship? She was like, yes. Do you feel like you're tippy-toeing? Yes. Do you clench your jaw and feel palpitations in your heart? She's like, oh my God, yes. I said, well, and she's like, but that's just how I live. So I then had to illuminate to her, well, that means you're not happy, but you're not even aware you're not happy. She came really for her child and she thought she was going to fix her child, but then soon realized how deeply miserable she was. So most of us are so unconscious and disconnected and so afraid to be in our body because we're afraid to realize that we're so disconnected. So we're zombies walking around. And so the first state is to be willing to be brave enough to say, I am not okay. Something is not okay. I'm not okay. And it's okay if we don't do it ourselves consciously, because life will do it for us. Our addiction will make us hit rock bottom. We'll get a terminal illness. Our child will yell and scream and be in trouble. Something in our external environment will crack and show us, if we're not willing to do it ourselves, that we are not okay. So first is the realization, the awareness that something is not okay. And then is the declaration and the dedication and the devotion to begin to change, which means you have to uncover your past patterns. The partner is not going to change. The weighing machine is not going to change. The child is not going to change. The bank account is not going to change. You are going to have to change how you are with every experience. And that will take you straight back to your childhood patterns. And you have to work with a coach. You have to do a program. You have to go on a journey. It takes minimum 6 months, if I'm being very, very, generous about someone's dedication, but no one is that dedicated. It takes years. But the payoff is that as soon as you start walking the path, the clearing begins to become more clear. And eventually you come to a space of change, of transformation. It may take a few years, but once you're there, it's so worth it because you've made peace with your past, you've healed who you are, and now you are more embodied in your life. Like you used to be in one life, you were a financial analyst, broker, whatever, wheeler, dealer, and you never could have imagined this. But you did the work, you went through the birth canal, and now you're here. So what a difference, right? But it did take time.
Yeah, this is awesome, straight up. And for the audience, like run that back, grab a journal. This is so valuable, and you nailed it, right? Like for me, I was repeating the same pattern, and I began to believe the story in my head because I was asleep. I was like in the matrix or unconscious. I was thinking like this was it for me. Like people that are in love, like I don't believe that it's possible, or I'm at this job, this is what it is for me, right? And so forth. And then when you said like life will happen, right? Something will happen for you. Obviously, we want to suggest to the audience to be proactive, but like you said, life will happen. And during that lockdown, when I saw everybody watching a lot of Netflix and day drinking, I just said, something's not right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What is going on here? Like, do I have a choice? Can I do something else? Can I change my beliefs, my thought process? And then the journey began and the birth canal and all that stuff. But the word that really stuck out to me there is awareness, because you can't change it if you can't see it.
Right. So everyone wakes up at their own pace and at their own time. You can't force people to wake up. You can keep trying. I mean, every human being who's in a partnership and wants to wake the other person has tried, but it doesn't work because that person has to come to their own decision and at the threshold of their own awakening in their own time. So part of awakening also is releasing those who cannot awaken according to how you think now. You know, once you awaken, you're like, you begin to see everyone else's bullshit and you want them to wake up and realize it. But part of awakening is to have the awareness that everyone will wake up in their own time. So you have to release those people. And that's painful too, because now you have to create a whole new tribe and let go of the old. And that's why people really don't change the most, is because they're so scared of letting go of the old.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because you're so scared to let go of the old that you're not even thinking about all the new abundance and what will be much more in alignment with who you're becoming once you let go of the person that you've maybe outgrown.
Yes, we're so afraid. We get so attached to who we are, where we live, who we talk to, how we dress, that we don't dare to step out. But the stepping out is where the activation of new energy comes, and it propels you. It's only when you're in the unknown you'll get more creative, you get more adventurous, you get more expansive. If you're in the same hole, going from one block to the next block, the same blocks, you're not being pushed, you're not being challenged. It's just like when we exercise, we have to keep challenging the body, otherwise the muscles don't grow. In the same way, if we're stagnant with the same 5 people in our lives, they can be wonderful, but you're not going to expose yourself to the discomfort of the new you with a new another.
This is so good. And I was going to ask you, but maybe that's an answer in itself. Because I know I was looking at your content, which I suggest the whole audience do immediately if you're not already. And one of the things that I saw you talking about was the ability to raise your energy, which I think is really everything. But I imagine one way to do it is what you just said.
Right, is to embrace new possibilities into our lives. And with each new possibility, you test it out, you try it out, you lean into the yes. And maybe with each new encounter, you meet a new part of yourself. That's the beauty of a new encounters, whether it's trying out a new routine at the gym, or just trying out a new recipe, or eating a different way, or calling a new person in your life, or trying out a new podcast. Anything that forces you to confront a new part of yourself is now allowing you to expand.
This is like, talk about divine intervention. This is like the perfect conversation at the perfect time, selfishly for me, because fitness is very important to me, more so for the mental component than the physical these days. But I work out every day and I run. And if I'm not running, I'm lifting weights. But I felt like I was going through a little bit of a routine and it was starting to get a little dull. And so yesterday, for the very first time, I signed up for boxing and I had my first session. And I was so jazzed. I was lit up. In fact, I have my second one tomorrow morning. But was it boxing? Maybe. But it was probably because it was something new and unknown and exciting. And there's just something special about being a beginner again with the challenges, right?
Right, right. So now because you're not a master yet, you are forced to go back to being a student. And that's the component. Allowing yourself to go back and say, I don't know, I'm starting again. But in that, new parts of you come out. And you encounter that, oh wow, yourself, you encounter a new part of you, but also that you can grow, you can adapt. Adaptability comes, brings with it and comes with it a whole set of, creativity, flexibility, just the juices start flowing again. And I think we can fall into this kind of same old patterns and not push ourselves to grow. That's why being a student is so important. Taking a course, learning something new every day, because it keeps you moving and it keeps you growing. And that's so vital.
Yeah, this is gold. Just off the cuff, I'm just curious, is fitness or working out, is that important for you?
Yes, yes. And again, just mostly for the mental, because, I was telling my friend who's also a fitness, she loves to exercise, that man, this dopamine that you get after the workout. I mean, it's an addiction. And what a great addiction to have, because it can instantly transform you. It's free therapy. It's made by you. It's organic. It's completely natural, and it's abundantly available to you. Even, walking for 5 minutes or picking up the weights. I have weights right behind my desk, so that when I pass by, I do a few weights. It doesn't have to be something rigid, or you don't have to go to the gym and have this cut body. You just need to move. And the moving creates, again, we're talking about keeping it flowing, right? That's what this talk is about.
Yeah.
And moving your body is so much a part of that, because you have readily available dopamine, which is your free therapy, and most of us don't use it. It just blows my mind away. And I think we don't use it because we're afraid to fail at it, and we think we should be perfect at it. So it took me a long time in exercise and fitness to realize I don't have to do 3 hours a day. I don't have to be looking a certain way. I just need to move and start with 5 minutes a day. And that can build up or not, but I just have to make movement my mantra, not this ideal body, not this number on a scale, and not this perfection. Everyone would move if they took away the perfection element of it,
Yeah. Kind of divorce from the outcome. I like to say marry the process, divorce the
Yes.
outcome.
Yes, yes. And, I used to go for all these classes, and I once went, I'm not going to say the kind of class because I don't want to be sued, but I went for this one kind of class where everyone would put their stats on the board. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But, and I would laugh and I go, why are we creating a competition out of this? And all the guys were like, my God, that's why we come. It's because of the juice of the competition. And I appreciated that. But I also appreciated those of us who didn't compete, because we just wanted to come to just be present with our bodies. So wherever people are, whether they get the juice from competition or they get the juice from just moving, don't get caught up in what other people are doing. Find your own rhythm, but definitely keep it moving, keep it flowing, because you're a dynamic being and you deserve that.
You're a dynamic being and you deserve that. So beautiful. Hell yeah. Before we dive into all things the book, I have to ask you this one selfishly, because it's something that I struggle with and I'm working on it. And it's being an empath and an overgiver. And sometimes I really want to help everybody and see everybody win. I used to not be like this, but I am now, for better or for worse. And sometimes my fiance will say to me, Craig, sometimes you're too kind. Like some people just don't deserve it. Right. But I want to see the best in everyone and so forth. But I know sometimes I give too much energy and I find myself dwelling in it, and I need to be better at that. What is one thing I could do, or what do you suggest? Because I know you talked about that as well.
Yes, yes. So I'm probably, I don't know how old you are, but I'm definitely more than 20 years older than you.
No,
And yes, how old are you?
37.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Me?
Okay, so you look young. What can I say? Uh, okay, so I'm 50. So I thought you were at least 30.
50 is
Okay,
young.
50 is young. Um, so yeah, so just from one empath who's older than you and has been burnt out and burned, I would tell you that, create some rules. And I mean rules in the most beautiful way. As in, so, if people don't ask for your help, try not to give it. So I wait to be asked now because I was like you, as to shove my help down everyone's throat because I wanted to make them happy. I wanted them to see their potential. I wanted them to rescue themselves from their misery. But now I really restrain myself till they ask. And then I may even do more. Like I'm like, they have to really ask. And then I may do a little bit more. They have to pay for it, right? They have to pay me in some way, meaning show up at my house. You come to me, or you buy my course, or you show me that you really want to change. Because I can tell you, till my 40s, I maybe even till yesterday, I I would just give it all away for free. And I would then overextend myself, be taken advantage of, burn out. Even my daughter would tell me, Mom, you are just too much. It's your fault. It's your fault. Don't complain, Mom. It's your fault. So I realized that I was negatively impacting myself because I was coming to the other person with a savior mentality, which is actually quite narcissistic and quite invasive. I needed to shut the F up, let people be where they are. And I was also not walking my talk because my talk is that pain is a portal. So if I'm taking away that person's pain, how are they going to grow? Pain is the portal. So who am I, the Messiah, to come and save and rescue people when they don't ask, they haven't paid, they haven't shown up, they don't even say they need it. So who am I to take away their life process? And once I live by that I'm no one to take away someone's life process. If their life process is pain, I know in my life, pain got me to very many deeper, beautiful places. So why am I so afraid of their pain? Let them have their pain. Their pain is their pain. And when they're ready, they'll come. So I really operate now from letting people be in their life. And I always say I'm here to help, but this is what you can do. Take this free course that I have, watch my YouTube videos, then come to me. And if they do all that, then I know that they're really ready. And then I will offer myself
Yeah.
step by step.
I just had a dopamine hit because I'm so engaged and having so much fun right now.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard that articulated like that in my entire life, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely beautiful. Pain is the portal. And
Mm-hmm.
before, when I was telling you about like my rebirth or reinvention, and like you were shaking your head, and now I totally get it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a prerequisite to get to for the hero's journey or to get to the other side. Like if you don't have pain, you can't maybe really spread your wings and grow.
Right, right. So it's actually when you rob people of their pain without them being ready for that co-experience with you, and if you just do it for them, then they're not. This is the same for parenting, right? We talk about how children need to go through their own life experience so that they develop those wings. When parents take it out and clear the way for children, then they don't develop that inner trust and resilience. They don't develop that practice.
This is so good. Obviously we're going to talk about parenting and stuff like that. So and you talk about conscious parenting, and I want the audience to know exactly what that means, but also in regards to the pain, how do you handle that when you see your child going through something that you know is necessary for them to grow, but they're looking maybe for you for guidance?
Yeah, so there's different pain. If it's pain and different age groups for children. So we don't want to throw children into pain beyond their capacity to handle it if they're too young and they can't handle it, right? So if you can avoid living in a war-torn country and you can avoid not being bombed every day and you can avoid not screaming in front of your kid, that's you need to do that. Kids don't need to be exposed to unnecessary artificial pain, yes? So you as a parent are responsible to kind of keep it clean, keep it stable, keep it simple. But if they go through something that is organic to that age group, for example, a fourth grader who doesn't get invited to the popular kid's birthday party, that's very normal for a fourth grader to experience. So they must experience that, right? A 16-year-old who goes through her first heartbreak, she must. The 9-year-old who's scared that she's going to fail in a class, that's normal. So things that are authentically part of a child's normal life experience, they must experience it. So you can help, and you can coddle it a little bit, but at the end of the day, if they don't get invited, you can't make the other kid invite them for the party. You have to say, yeah, not everyone's going to invite you. It sucks, it hurts you, I get it, let's cry about it, and then let's go have some ice cream, right? Like we can move through it. So that's how I kind of teach parents. If it's something that's part of a child's normal life experience, they've got to experience it themselves. When my daughter went to college, her first weekend, literally first Saturday at college, the police came to their apartment, right? But they were making too much noise, they were being rowdy, so she had to handle it. I thought it was phenomenal, right? Because she had to deal with it. The bubble burst right there, right? So I was like, she was like, damn, I want to come home. I was like, no, you have to handle it. So that's the rule of thumb. If it's something that's organic, you have to let people go through it. You can be a support, but you cannot take it away from them.
Yeah, beautifully said. And it makes perfect sense to me. Something I will definitely keep in mind, God willing, when I have children as well, hopefully sooner than later. There's so many places we could take this conversation, but I want to hammer home the new book. Why this book and why now?
So this is my latest parenting book. It's called The Parenting Map. It's gorgeous. I don't know. Is this on video or just on audio?
Both.
Okay, so I'm going to hold it up.
Show us. Hell
Look how
yeah.
beautiful it is.
Love the colors.
Yes, simple and eloquent. It's my how to become a conscious parent. And it's filled with practical, simple steps, exercises to demystify the most amazing thing you can do for your children, which is to become a more conscious parent. It is the most difficult job in the world. You're 37. Catch me when you're 47 after you've had a few kids. You will know exactly what I'm talking about. So everyone listening who is a parent knows it is simply the most relentless, unforgiving, difficult job in the world. And of course, one of the most amazing life experiences to have. But I don't want to over glorify it. If you're not a parent and you're listening and you missed the window to have a kid, hallelujah, go enjoy your life. It's also great to not have kids, because it is absolutely the most difficult job in the world, the most difficult job in the world. And I only have one kid and I'm whining, right? Because you know why? Because there's no such thing as an achievement. You can never win. It never ends. The minute you think you're winning at this thing called parenting, boom, something's going to happen. So this book is I declare my last book. I was going to say one of my last books on parenting, but my last book on parenting. And so it's my tour de force. I love it. People used to always ask me for the how-to of conscious parenting. This is the how-to. And I break it down into really digestible, bite-sized pieces so people can begin implementing and start changing their relationship with their children. Because if you're a parent, nothing matters more to you, literally, than your relationship with your children.
Yeah, amen. And if the audience, you guys know I'm very selective with who we associate ourselves with. Go buy the book immediately. Is it out yet, or they could pre-order it?
Pre-order it, please. It's coming out any minute. So go grab your copy. And if they grab 2 copies, I'm giving some free gifts that they will know about on my website. So,
and guys, if the audience, like, I'm about to be a first-time author, I know how I've done my homework. I know how important it is for the pre-sales and so forth. So literally go buy it immediately. And we're going to drop the link to it right in the show notes and so forth. I wanted to ask you this, and we're not going to give away everything, but you talk about this a lot. And I imagine you covered a little bit in the book. What is the key to connecting with your kid?
Well, the key is really, the key has many, many pieces to it. Number one is you have to fully, unconditionally accept yourself. Because if you don't accept yourself and you haven't worked through the process of embracing your flaws, your imperfections, you will screw up your kid, because you will see in them all that they are not instead of all that they are. And if you miss seeing your kids for all who it is they are, then you are, creating a debit in them of self-worth. And then you raise an adult who doesn't know who they are. They're all hard on themselves. They're full of, lack of self-worth. And they then have sabotaging self-patterns. So it all starts with how much does the parent accept themselves, and then accepting who your kid is. You have to raise the kid in front of you, not the kid of your fantasy, not your neighbor's kid, not your cousin's kid, not the kid you were, and not the kid you wanted, the kid in front of you. Wow. Which takes a whole lot of presence and attention. I began doing this work because I did not accept my kid for who my kid was. I wanted my kid of my fantasy. I had a whole movie. I knew exactly what kind of kid I wanted. And I didn't get that kid. I got some other kid. I'm like, who is this kid? And I was very upset and mad. And I had a tantrum because I didn't become pregnant or, ruin my body to have just an unknown. This kid was completely an unknown. But guess what? Every kid is an unknown. And all of us parents have this fantasy of who we'll be and who our kid will be, which is a whole load of bullshit. And that's why we miss connecting to who our kid is. And that was my epiphany. Damn, my kid is not the kid of my fantasy, but she's the kid that I'm meant to have. And I better start connecting to who she is versus who I want her to be. Otherwise, I'm going to miss the whole thing.
This is so deep, and I want to acknowledge you for being so vulnerable and pulling back the curtain. And it reminds me of this saying, and I do this a lot of my clients, so meet them where they're at, right?
Yes.
It's not a one size fits all, so to speak. And I know something else that you talk about in regards to this is sometimes we often crush our children or our child's innocence, right? How can we avoid that? And do we maybe do that because of this idea of the fantasy kid that we had in mind?
Yes, we don't realize how innocent. And by innocent, what I mean is not that children are not clever and cannot be sneaky, but by innocent, I mean that they are just innocent in trying to get their needs for connection met. That's it. So they could use manipulation, but it's for a very innocent need. They could lie, but it's for a very innocent need. The need is for connection. The need is to be seen. Now, they may go about it in a sneaky way because they learn from us, but the need is very innocent. And we rob them of their innocence because we punish them. We don't understand that all they're looking for is authentic connection with us. Children, you'll see when you have your own kids, they really unconditionally love their parents, but they can be, hard to deal with. They don't go to bed on time. They yell, they scream, they bite, they kick, but that's just because they're being children. They're not being purposefully maniacal towards us. But we don't understand that children are just naturally unregulated, naturally, they don't know how to control their emotions. We take it personally, and then we yell and scream at them, and then we create a disconnection.
Yeah, this is awesome. And there's a lot of people that are in the space and talk about stuff like this, but I've never heard anybody talk about some of the things that you talk about. And also, it could sound a little complicated, but you make it so digestible. It really is beautiful. I wanted to ask you this, and it's kind of a personal question, but because you speak about this stuff very publicly, obviously writing books about it, how does that affect your daughter, or had the relationship based upon the fact that you talk about maybe some of your experiences and so forth?
Well, she thankfully is not interested in my work at all. And I'm so grateful. I do tell her, I talk about her, and then she pretends to get very offended. And I don't think she really cares. She's just living her own life. She will, punch me sometimes back in my face, go, oh, I can see. If I've been unconscious, she's like, oh, I see. You're really conscious, mom. She can be, a little snarky about it. But I've really separated my public persona from her. For her, I'm just plain old, very ordinary and very imperfect mom. And so she doesn't really care about this whole thing I do. But one day when she grows older, I know she will appreciate it, because she's been the benefactor of conscious parenting, which means, she's gotten quite a lovely ride through childhood, because I have low expectations, if any. And I don't mean low expectations because she's a low performing person. I just don't expect much. I just, it's not my right. I don't see it as my right to have expectations. So I've kind of let her be herself, which is a lovely thing. But she doesn't even know she should be thinking of herself as lucky, because that's just who she is. She just grew up like this. So yeah, she's definitely a benefactor. And all the parents that I work with, or I have a coaching institute and I train coaches. So all those children are benefactors of this very beautiful model of conscious parenting. It is a game changer. It is so powerful, so liberating for the parent and the child, because I don't expect. I'm not caught up in what she does. I just can love her. I don't care what she does, as long as it doesn't harm her. So what freedom, right? I'm not worried every day. I'm not nervous. If she breaks up with her boyfriend, great. If she drops out of college, okay, great. If I'm not bothered about the outcome. I'm only caring about her authentic life experience. So that's so liberating for her and for me. So it's a liberating approach.
Yeah, it's so good. And I imagine a lot of kids go through life a certain way based upon what they perceive their parents' expectation for them to be.
100%, 100%. And I couldn't even try to expect. Even if I said, Maya, I expect you to do X, Y, or Z, she'll just say NO. That's it. I won't even get any apology. Because I've released her from that feeling that she has to sing to the tunes of my expectation. But yes, so many adults in their 40s and 50s are still mired by the desperate need to get their parents' validation and approval. And that is so unfair, a thing we do to our children when we bind them to the hunger for our validation and approval.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Look, if there was a very new mom that were to come to you and say, hey, I see what you talk about, and is there any advice that you would have for me before I take on this beautiful journey of being a brand new mom? Obviously, you wanted to keep it organic and so forth, but what advice would you have for her?
I would tell her to write down all her fantasies on a piece of paper and then tear it up and shred it and burn it, because none of them may come true. And the biggest disappointment we have is from the crumbling of our own fantasies, not our children. It's our own fantasies crumbling.
That's deep. I love it. And to be honest with you, I think that's so valuable for any parent or about to be parent and so forth. I never even thought about this, if I'm being honest with you. Maybe it's because I'm not a dad yet, but it's so true, because like a high achiever, or obviously you have expectations, you want to be successful and so forth. And now it makes sense that you would probably put that pressure on your kid or so forth, because you have this idea of what your offspring should be or what they should accomplish. But that's just may not be a reality, and that's okay.
100% that's okay. And you have to redefine success, you have to redefine happiness. So my books do that, especially this book. It helps the parent get in the right frame of mind so that we can raise our children to become who they are meant to be, not who we think they should be.
Yeah. Maybe it's the same answer, maybe not, but I'll ask you, what's the overall big takeaway that you want somebody to get? What message, what nugget from this book?
From this book is that our childhood is the most important phase of our life, and it will affect your children's life forever. And it has affected your life already. So this book allows parents to go and heal themselves so that they can heal their children. This book allows parents to identify their patterns. I give them patterns that they can see. Are you this? Are you that? Are you this? And by recognizing your own patterns as a parent, you can help your kids not to form those patterns in their lives. So it's such an important contribution to the parent's life. It's a parent's self-help book so that they can then help their children.
Unbelievable. Were you, I wanted to ask you just sort of the cuff, like, when did you have this big breakthrough in life that like you were going to become very conscious and really aware and mindful and understand all this type of stuff and make this your life's work?
Well, I really got into this work when I was 21. I got into it very early and began meditating and saw the truth about our illusions and how we are living false lives, all of us, most of us, and searching for significance and meaning in all the wrong places, in our career, in our marriage, in our children, in our body. It's all the wrong place. We'll never find it there. The only truth we need to be seeking is the truth of our own inner nothingness, our own inner, it's called emptiness in Buddhism, our own inner non-self. When you realize that you are not a self, then you let go of all these material things. And that's when you attain liberation. So that's the highest form of wisdom. But when you're on that path, you realize all these beautiful things about who you are. And so you don't get caught up in the bullshit of life. And so you live a better life. So I've been trying to live a better life since I was 21.
This is so good. And it's like most people want all these things, these materials, the cars, the money, the relationship, because they think that that's what's going to give them that lit soul, so to speak. But what you just articulated and what I believe is first you activate that lit soul. And then ironically enough, you end up manifesting all the things anyway, because you focus on the here and now.
Yeah, then all those things are here. Like my car is literally a 2014 model and I love it. I think it's like the newest model. I just don't see anything wrong in it. And all my friends go, oh my God, you got to buy a new car. And I go, why? This is a luxury car. You see, you begin to see luxury everywhere because you live in inner luxury. I don't need to have, I have everything, but I don't need to have, it to be the best of the best simply because of a label or a brand, because you see luxury everywhere you go.
So good. Inner luxury.
Yes.
Dr. Shefali has nuggets today. This is
Mhm.
awesome. The show is breaking out. The audience is very loyal and engaging. We're about 4 million now. What's the best way for, I think I know the answer. What's the best way for all of them to support you?
Well, they can go to my website. It's dr for drshefali.com and, buy the book, grab a course, join my institute. I have so many offerings. So there's many ways that people can start this journey. But if they're a parent, I mean, if they're not practicing conscious parenting, they are behind the tide, because this is the new wave of changing the world, really.
Yeah, because we need to start early with the way the world's
Yes.
going now. And also, it's never too late to start for a parent, right?
Never, never, because this is all about the self. So how can it be late?
Yeah, this is unbelievable. Dr. Shefali, hang out for 1 second. I just want to connect with you after. I want you to know you the definition of perspective, authenticity, and wisdom from taking your life experience and spreading positivity, light, and deep truths. I could personally guarantee that your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That was so much fun.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. And let us know when this goes live so we can share.
Yeah.
And let me know if you can cross post it on Instagram. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Also, how can I personally support you?
I don't know, just share it with friends. If you have any big podcast friends, let
Yeah.
me know.
And also, I didn't realize that you were right here. We're throwing a big event next week, actually. We have big speakers and so forth. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it keeps growing and so forth. So I'm going to put on another event soon. And I'd love to have you, and maybe we could talk about what that looks like and so forth. But I just think you're awesome, and I know
Thank you.
my
Thank you.
yeah, my community would find it so valuable.